Hello guys, welcome back to LR Anime. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of BTTH Rebirth of Emperor Yang episode number 11 based on novel. So let's start. Liu Huabai and others saw Xiao Yang walking outside the hall, looked at each other, frowned, and immediately followed up. Xiao Yang paced to the outside of the hall, turned his head and looked at the following people, smiled and said, "Since you helped me take care of Liana, I'll leave you some more things, even as a reward for taking care of Liana." As soon as the voice fell, Liu Xincheng didn't wait for several people to react. His body moved. First, he flew towards the Liu family's library. Liu Huabai saw this and asked Liu Xiong to stay first to take care of Liana. The two of them quickly followed up. A moment later, Xiao Yang and Liu Huabai came to the library of the Liu family. Xiao Yang walked forward first and came to the golden plaque again. Today, the golden plaque has become the most important cultivation secret of the Liu family, because there is a trace of the soul brand of ancient sages in the golden plaque. At least, Liu Huabai told the family that he didn't want the ancestor Liu Feng to spread everywhere. In that way, it was really not good for his Liu family. Because of Liu Huabai's relationship, the Liu family also know the purpose of this golden plaque. Its function is to let the younger generation of Liu Jiajie come here to feel and improve their strength. When Liu Huabai told the family, the people of the Liu family immediately boiling. Strength is the foundation of the family. The rise and fall of the family is based on strength. When the family has strength, it can prosper. On the contrary, it will die. The strength of the family originally comes from the younger generation, but the main reason why the Liu family has not been popular for so many years is not that the younger generation's strength is too low. Now there are such opportunities, the Liu family are naturally not excited. Therefore, the family's library has become the yearning place for all the descendants of the Liu family. This is not because the Jinming plaque is in front of the library pavilion, but because every family child who enters the library pavilion for the first time, regardless of their strength, can understand for half an hour before the Jinming plaque. As soon as the news spread, the whole family was boiling, and all the descendants of the family were extremely excited. They are all stuck in the room every day, constantly practicing and forgetting food and sleep, just to achieve their strength as soon as possible and have the opportunity to enter the library. As a result, the overall strength of the Liu family has increased by a large part in the short term, which has impressed the whole Qingyang city. At the moment, in front of Xiao Yang, there are many descendants of the Liu family who are moving in and out of the library. Before the gold plaque, there was a long line waiting for the people who were waiting for the gold plaque to leave. Xiao Yang smiled. In this way, it is like a family struggling together. Only such a family can rise up on this chaotic continent. When Xiao Yang smiled, Liu Huabai and Liu Xincheng beside him also smiled brightly. The family is so beautiful. How can they be unhappy? The family is in their hands and moving towards prosperity should be the happiest thing in their hearts. After all, as long as they are the owner of the family, they will think so. There were a lot of them laughing. The children of the Liu family looked at them. Seeing this, they all quickly saluted Xiao Yang. They waved their hands at will and stood in front of the library. Liu Huabai and Liu Xincheng were thoughtful when they saw Xiao Yang standing in front of the golden plaque. A moment later, Liu Huabai stepped forward to Xiao Yang and asked, "Elder Xiao Yang, are you going to use this gold plaque? If so, I'll let these little guys get out of the way and let you finish it first." Before his voice fell, he had already walked forward. Xiao Yang quickly pulled him back, and then reluctantly smiled at Liu Huabai. "I said you are also the head of a family. You do things like a child. You don't see that the person who is now understanding has reached a critical moment. If he is not bad luck, he should break through on the spot. If you wake him up at the moment, I'm afraid he can't break through. On the contrary, his strength has regressed because of being eaten back. At that time, I see how your family will explain to others." Liu Huabai smiled awkwardly when he heard the speech. If he really came to that situation, he could not tell others that Elder Xiao Yang wanted to use the gold plaque. If so, he would be really finished. Thinking of this, Liu Hua's white face showed a chat smile again, stopped talking and waited quietly in place. Time passed slowly. In these respectful eyes, 4 hours passed quietly. Liu Huabai finally waited for the opportunity. In front of the Jinming plaque, the people dispersed and respectfully made way for Xiao Yang. Xiao Yang smiled and walked forward slowly. Xiao Yang sat cross-legged in front of the Jinming plaque and looked at the Jinming plaque in front of him. Xiao Yang smiled at the corners of his mouth, raised his palm gently, and then pasted it on the Jinming plaque. A burst of golden light flashed. The power of Xiao Yang's soul reappeared in the heaven and earth. At a glance, Xiao Yang still looked like a wilderness, with mountains everywhere, birds and animals flying at will, and forests and fields covered. Just different from the past, those scenes are illusory too much, so people can't see. Is it real or illusory? Everything is confusing and illusory. Why are you here again? Don't say you just came to talk to me. When Xiao Yang looked around, a middle-aged man's voice suddenly came out. Xiao Yang was not surprised. He slowly took back his eyes and turned to look behind him. A middle-aged man stood impressively. This person was Liu Feng. Xiao Yang saw him and smiled. After a long time, he said. Why am I looking for you? You should guess. Liu Feng frowned slightly when he heard the speech. After a moment of silence, he began to ask. Are you leaving? Xiao Yang smiled and remained silent. Liu Feng frowned when he heard the speech. A moment later, Liu Feng sighed and spoke slowly. Really want to go? So fast? This time, Xiao Yang nodded, hesitated, and said. Originally, I would like to stay for another period of time, but unfortunately, if I stay any longer, I'm afraid it will bring disaster to your Liu family, so I think I'd better leave first and finish my recent goal. When Liu Feng heard the speech, he just frowned, looked at Xiao Yang and said angrily. As the future guardian of my Liu family, you are still causing trouble everywhere. It's really a younger generation's style. You're ashamed of your strength. Hearing the speech, Xiao Yang brushed his lips and ignored it, but the color behind him was positive, and then said. Well, I won't joke with you. Now, I'll help you stabilize this space and leave my spiritual brand. It's like the reward for your younger generation to take care of the little girl for me, and it's also my compensation for you. Liu Feng picked up his eyebrows when he heard the speech. He just wanted to say something more, but he saw that Xiao Yang had moved up and changed the formula in his hand. Streamers shot out, melted into the sky and disappeared, as if everything had been an illusion just now. Liu Feng twitched slightly at the corner of his mouth. This guy was really rude. He regarded this place as his home. Liu Feng reluctantly glanced his mouth, flashed his body and gradually disappeared into the space. Seeing this, Xiao Yang ignored it and continued to change the formula in his hand. Streamers continued to fly into the earth or mountains, spreading ripples and disappearing. After a long time, Xiao Yang took back his hand and looked at the real world on all sides with a faint smile. Liu Feng also showed his birth shape again. Xiao Yang smiled at Liu Feng and raised his eyebrows towards him. Liu Feng brushed his mouth and ignored it. Xiao Yang fell down from the air and landed on the ground. Xiao Yang found a huge mountain stone and thought about it. The power of the soul gushed out like a tide. Only in a moment, the whole mountain stone became soft and full of light. Xiao Yang breathed out a long breath, looked at Liu Feng, smiled and disappeared into the world. Outside, Xiao Yang slowly opened his eyes and stood up. Liu Huabai and Liu Xincheng hurried forward to say hello to Xiao Yan. Xiao Yang turned his head, smiled at Liu Huabai and said, I have just left my soul imprint in this golden plaque to let your descendants of the Liu family understand. In this way, the cultivation growth rate of your Liu family and your descendants should be much faster. Hearing the surprise on Yang's face, they all bowed to Xiao Yang and thanked him. Xiao Yang returned it with a smile. Later, Xiao Yang saw Liana again and the little beast who heard that Xiao Yang came back. Seeing the little beast, Xiao Yang's eyes lit up, bent over and held it in his arms, slightly lowered his head and whispered. He didn't know what he was talking about. He saw the little beast nodding and the people looking straight at him smacking their tongue. Xiao Yang finished talking to the little beast, turned his head to Liu Huabai, explained a few words, and turned to go outside Liu's house, leaving only a group of Liu family behind. All sounds are quiet, a peaceful, a forest, boundless and vast. The breeze blows, and a tree wave like knife light sweeps away. With a huge sound, it blows face to face, taking away pieces of withered leaves. Bang! In a flash, a huge sound of body collisions sounded in the green forest. A figure in white stood at the top of a huge tree, shaking slightly from side to side. Xiao Yang shook his head slightly, threw out the dizziness in his head, looked at the position he was standing now, frowned slightly, moved, fell from the top of the tree and fell to the ground. Looking at a huge corpse of Warcraft on the ground, Xiao Yang glanced. This is a 6th order split clouded leopard. He is good at speed and extremely agile. Unfortunately, Xiao Yang is practicing Tianjue step here, but Xiao Yang can't control the speed and direction. Therefore, this cracked clouded leopard is unlucky to be hit by Xiao Yang. And how can the physical strength of a 6th-order warcraft be compared with that of Xiao Yang, a strong man at the semi-imperial level? Therefore, under Xiao Yang's terrible body and the speed of Qianjue step, with the 6-step body of the broken clouded leopard, he was directly killed by Xiao Yang in an extremely strange way. Xiao Yang looked at the cracked clouded leopard lying motionless on the ground. He leaned slightly and looked sorry. Then his body flashed and disappeared. It has been 5 days since Xiao Yang left Liu's house today. For 5 days, Xiao Yang has been walking towards Liu Huabai and told him about his wild ancient city. He said that there, Xiao Yang can get away to leave the southern region. This made Xiao Yang feel strange, but he didn't ask. After leaving the Liu family, Xiao Yang walked all the way to the wild ancient city and practiced Qianjue step by the way. Unfortunately, Qianjuebu is worthy of being a human-level fighting skill, and the cultivation difficulty is not low at all. Even Xiao Yang can still be said to have made no progress after 5 days of thinking. Qianjuebu is a set of body fighting skills based on the power of space and cultivation. It does not seek speed, but nothingness. When you have achieved great success in cultivation, you can ignore the rules of space and walk on the earth like nothingness. All reality is ethereal. You can travel thousands of miles in an instant to catch up with life and death. Beyond 1,000 years, you can chase illusions and have nothing to do. This day's Ju step is really magical. Even its master, Qianjue, failed to fully understand it. Qianjue step mainly lies in the use of space, shun Hua space and let space follow you, rather than blocking it in front of you. Qianjuebu has 3 realms, Wind, Lingyun, and Yakong. Each realm is divided into 3 small realms, Entry, Xiaocheng, Dacheng, and so on. In the first realm, the wind moves, and the wind is generated under the soles of the feet. The wind moves by the feet. The wind is smooth for people. People walk with the wind, and the feet generate the wind. It seems that people walk with the wind. In fact, the wind goes with people, reversing the road of heaven and earth and turning it into a wonder of heaven and earth. At the beginning of the introduction, the wind and cloud are stirred, and the world is chaotic, so that people can't perceive the trend of the user's breath. It is very wonderful. It is transformed into human help by the power of heaven and earth. It is wonderful. When you are young, you are more powerful to use, but it is no longer to disturb the world like when you are getting started, but to orderly encourage the wind and cloud to help it. After Dacheng, the wind and cloud move, the breath changes, and the world is general, so that the opponent can't be checked. At this time, Qianjueba really becomes the help of the beginning cultivator. Lingyun's territory is mainly based on speed. After entering Lingyun's territory, the speed of monks in all aspects will soar sharply, and improve the strength of monks as a whole. This makes Xiao Yang feel very hot. Unfortunately, Lingyun's territory can be achieved easily. Lingyun's great territory mainly pursues the monk's mastery of the wind in the wind. If the monk's ability to control the wind is strong enough, in terms of speed, even the wind friars of the same level will abuse their opponents if they compete with each other in speed. It can be seen that the cultivation of Qianjuebu has high requirements for each realm. If you want to become stronger, you must control each realm freely. The last one is the Imperial Realm. This Imperial Realm is not the other Imperial Realm. The lowest requirement of the Imperial Realm on this day is the power of control and space. This control is also different from the general control. The minimum requirement for the control of the power of space is to understand the avenue of emptiness. The Void Road is one of the 10,000 road rules between heaven and earth. Between heaven and earth, for thousands of years, human beings have been pursuing the avenue of eternal life and the avenue of immortality. What they desire is eternal life, and the only heaven and earth, also known as Eternal Life Avenue, or the Way of Heaven. It's a pity that the avenue of longevity is so difficult. It's the end of eternity. Longevity is just vain. Although longevity is difficult, it can only be achieved by the avenue. Since ancient times, although there are no strong people who have ascended the level of longevity avenue. However, there is no unique heaven and earth avenue. There are all kinds of heaven and earth avenues except Eternal Life Avenue. Since ancient times, many strong human beings have found many different kinds of heaven and earth roads. Tiandi Avenue, Hungheng, ancient and modern, people are familiar with the powerful Chaos Avenue, Thunder Avenue, Yunshui Avenue, Wind Avenue, Fire Avenue, Light Avenue, Dark Avenue, Life Avenue, Death Avenue, Dead Avenue, etc. Among them, Chaos Avenue, Thunder Avenue, Fire Avenue and Light Avenue have the strongest attack power, ranking ahead of all heaven and earth avenues. Among them, Yunshui Avenue and Shengji Avenue have the strongest life force. They are generally used for auxiliary purposes, which is also quite mysterious. Of course, other avenues also have their own advantages, which are infinitely useful and miraculous. The use of the avenue is also a part of the strength itself. The strength of the avenue itself depends on how much the cultivator understands. After a long time, Xiao Yang also stopped in a little mess. This morning, Xiao Yang didn't know how many warcraft had been killed, which made his whole body very messy. Xiao Yang shook his head helplessly, jumped, stood on the top of an ancient tree, and looked at the waves of trees sweeping from a distance. Xiao Yang took a deep breath of fresh air, opened his arms and closed his eyes slightly. He let the wind and waves come face to face and blow past him. The wind and waves passed by, blowing Xiao Yang's clothes and robes, making bursts of whistling sound of the wind. Xiao Yang's fingers diverged slightly and felt the air flowing from his fingers. Listening to the wind in his ears, Xiao Yang's feet moved slightly, his body adjusted the angle slightly, let the wind beat on himself, and let the fierce air flow across his fingers. His clothes were agitated and his hair danced. Xiao Yang closed his eyes and listened to all this quietly. He felt everything around him and the strong wind on his body. His body kept moving left and right, changing his position, as if he were adjusting something. A moment later, Xiao Yang's eyes suddenly opened, and his right leg took a half step forward, but this action looked very strange, but at the moment when his foot stopped, Xiao Yang turned back suddenly. The next moment, hundreds of feet away from Xiao Yang, a figure in white slowly emerged. This person is Xiao Yang. Xiao Yang turned his head and looked at the position he had just stood behind him. A residual shadow gradually disappeared. Xiao Yang smiled and showed a surprised color on his face. Tianjue step first, wind. Xiao Yang smiled and showed a surprised color on his face. Just now, it has been explained that he realized the idea of the avenue of wind, and because of this, Xiao Yang made a great step in the successful use of it at that moment. Xiao Yang breathed out a long breath and looked at his current position. His body was fighting and his heart was moving. Xiao Yang's figure suddenly appeared dozens of feet away. During such repeated movements, Xiao Yang took this opportunity to practice well for half an hour. Although he often lost control, he was much better than before. Xiao Yang's body flashed and appeared on the ground. His body shook slightly. He settled down with his swaying body. Take a breath and show a smile at the corners of your mouth. After such a long time, you can almost grasp it. Tianjue step still needs the wind to practice. Only in this way can we understand the true essence of the wind realm and practice the realm of great success. Now, Tianjueba has been regarded as a formal start of practice, which means that we are not far from the introduction. At that time, even if the Yenmore old ghost chases him personally, he must have the ability to completely suppress him. Xiao Yang's eyes narrowed and his face became extremely cold, which made his whole body sound like a cold wind. Xiao Yang looked suddenly slow, but he whispered, "Old devil, although I don't know why you know me, since you want to provoke me and let you escape last time, you won't next time." In the twinkling of an eye, one day passed and it was early morning the next day. Xiao Yang woke up from practice, looked at the sky, and a smile came up at the corners of his mouth. It seemed that something had been waiting for a long time had finally come. Today's weather is not very good. In the sky, there are not very thick dark clouds floating. However, these dark clouds make Xiao Yang's eyes pass a trace of sigh. Xiao Yang's body moved. In a flash, he appeared in the sky. Above his head, it was the gloomy dark cloud. The arrival of Xiao Yang seemed to annoy the already grumpy dark cloud. When Xiao Yang came, there was a roar in the dark clouds. Xiao Yang smiled and looked up. Within a few miles, it was covered by this dark cloud. Although the dark cloud was very thin, it was enough for Xiao Yang. Xiao Yang's body moved, and his figure standing in the sky rose again and rushed to the top of the sky. Boom! Before the figure arrived, Tianlei was angry first. With a roar ringing through the sky, a not-so-strong thunder snake lightning cleaved down to Xiao Yang angrily. Xiao Yang's face remained unchanged. His body rushed forward, his arm bent upward, his palm clenched into a fist, and he greeted the angry thunder with a fist. Boom! When the two touched, a dazzling white light flashed out, and then a loud explosion of thunder shook the sky. The white light flashed, and Xiao Yang's body also appeared with it. However, at the moment, Xiao Yang was no longer in his position, but flew directly below the dark cloud and stood proudly. Xiao Yang raised a radian at the corner of his mouth and looked at the thunder cloud above his head, which was constantly rolling because of himself. Xiao Yang smiled faintly, raised his hands, and the yin formula in his hands began to change. Look at the yin formula, which is the cultivation yin formula of Tianjue step. With Xiao Yang's hand printing formula, a cold wind blew up in the sky. If the wind was not caused by Xiao Yang, I'm afraid no one would believe it. However, after only one night, Xiao Yang took the unique step of this day again, which could cause the echo of the cold wind. It really makes people feel unimaginable. Seeing this, Xiao Yang showed a smile on his face and printed a formula in his hand. His body disappeared in an instant. The next moment, 100 feet away, Xiao Yang's figure suddenly flashed and disappeared again. Xiao Yang seemed to be playing, as if he angered the billowing thunder clouds, which rolled and roared. When Xiao Yang's figure reappeared, a thunder burst down angrily. Only in an instant, Xiao Yang turned into nothingness, and the thunder clouds rolled and sounded like laughter. In the next moment, Xiao Yang's figure appeared again hundreds of feet away. Xiao Yang smiled and looked at the thunder clouds overhead. Xiao Yang moved and disappeared, but the dark wind covering the heaven and earth suddenly surged, as if it had turned into a strong wind and roared away in a certain direction. After a flash, Xiao Yang's figure suddenly flashed, and that position was the direction of the yin wind. Xiao Yang felt the strong wind sweeping through him. A smile appeared at the corners of his mouth, his eyes closed slightly, and murmured in a low voice. The wind is rising and the clouds are surging. Now we can finally do it. The wind is rising. Now the wind is rising. Cloud potential, look at today's luck. The wind and clouds are surging, and the wind moves Xiaocheng. The wind and clouds are stirring, and Lingyun can become, stepping on the power of the sky, breaking the sky. These are the sentences that emerged when he realized the heaven's absolute step yesterday. Presumably, this is also the cultivation experience that people who have achieved great success in the past practice day. They want to stay in this scroll for future generations to practice. In this sentence, each sentence corresponds to a realm. When the wind rises and clouds surge and the wind moves small, it refers to the realm of wind. That is to ask the friars to take up the wind and cloud trend when cultivating Tianjue step, and use the weathered cloud to help the wind, and the cloud to help the wind. The wind is surging. When a monk really does this step, he can be regarded as having achieved something in his studies. This sentence is even more simple and easy to understand. The wind and clouds are surging. It is only the momentum of the wind and clouds on this day. How can the momentum be of great use in combat? Inspired by the wind and cloud, this is Lingyun territory, where the real power lies. Lingyun territory, with the momentum of the wind and cloud, crisscross the world, gather the wind and cloud, unite the sky and thunder, and defeat the enemy. It can be said that it uses the power of heaven to defeat the enemy and has both attack and defense. Its power regrets heaven. Finally, there was no detailed explanation on the scroll. Maybe it was just the elder's guess and estimation. Xiao Yang didn't go deep into it. But just from the surface meaning of that sentence, if Tianjueben is cultivated to great success, I'm afraid its power is not small. Maybe it's really as described in the scroll, stepping on the power of heaven and breaking the Tianjueben. Xiao Yang's figure wandered back and forth in the thunder clouds. There was no organization between his steps. But it was this disorganized step that made Xiao Yang wander freely in the thunder clouds. The thunder clouds rolled, the yin wind howled, the thunder hit the lightning, and the wind and cloud surged. This thin dark cloud, which was like a cloud, was already furious. The sky thunder split wildly and fell madly. It smashed continuously between the thunder clouds and on the virtual shadows. Xiao Yang slightly closed his eyes and smiled. His face was calm. He knew that this cloud was angry. But he still kept his face, lost his hands behind him, and walked through the dark fog with his feet moving slightly. At least, for Xiao Yang, it was just like this. Xiao Yang's body moved slowly, his steps moved gently, perhaps to the left or right, and his body swayed gently. In this swing, he brought gusts of strong wind, swept through the thin dark clouds, and tossed endlessly in the thunder clouds. Xiao Yang's behavior seems to be playing with, which leads to Tianlei's disorderly roaring, and Tianlei's anger cleaves down. Unfortunately, Xiao Yang avoids it again and again. Behind each suspension, there is also a divine reason. Seemingly lucky, but magical. Finally, this time, Tianlei seems to have a plan. Between Xiao Yang's constant swing left and right, a lightning cage is emerging, trapping Xiao Yang in it, as if he wants to use the power of heaven to attack Xiao Yang. Xiao Yang's face remained unchanged, and the corners of his mouth still held a faint smile. It seemed that all this had nothing to do with him, and his face was light and cloudless. The calm on Xiao Yang's face seemed to touch Tianlei. The lightning cage was like a circular iron cage, which surrounded Xiao Yang and sent out bursts of thunder. Suddenly, the thunder was everywhere, and there was an adult thigh-thick thunder and lightning, which came to Xiao Yang. Xiao Yang's face was indifferent. He looked at the thunder and lightning in front of him without any action. But just when the lightning was about to hit him, Xiao Yang turned his body, made a mistake with his feet in place, and turned around in a very strange position. The lightning that struck Xiao Yang was also very strange. It turned around the direction Xiao Yang had just turned and shot into the distant sky. Then it exploded, made a loud noise, burst out bursts of dazzling thunder and disappeared. Xiao Yang slowly put on a smile at the corner of his mouth, and continued to walk between the angry thunder clouds. Xiao Yang continued to practice here. A group of guests also came to the Liu family in Qingyang City. There were not many people, 3 in total, but they shocked the whole Liu family, because they came from Qingyun Mansion. The strength of the 3 is not weak. At least, they can be regarded as the top strong in this area. Among them, the strongest one has reached the level of 6-star Dozuan, and the other 2 are 5-star Dozuan. Their strength is at the top in this area. At the moment, the 3 are standing side by side in the discussion hall of the Liu family. The 6-star Dozuan wanted to sit directly on the upper seat of the hall. He just thought about it in his heart and gave up the plan after all. Liu Huabai stood up from the master's seat, stretched his left hand forward, pointed to the 3 chairs in the row on the left of the hall, smiled and said to the 3 people, "3 Taoist friends, please take a seat." As soon as the voice fell, the eyes of the people in the main hall were slightly frozen. At the moment, many people in the main hall were already standing in their own positions, so they sent the owner to say to take a seat. But at the moment, everyone's eyes are momentarily dull. In front of the first chair on the left, there stood a snow-white cat. At least, in the eyes of everyone, it was a cat. At the moment, the cat was stepping on a cushion under one of its forward claws, looking at the people with a look on his face and blinking his bright eyes. The cat claws pulled back, pulled the cushion in front of him, twisted his ass together, and sat down under everyone's eyes. Then in front of the crowd, the 4 claws were closed, the tail was wrapped in front of the body, and the neck was shrunk. Then there was a continuous cooing sound, which was not loud, but it was indeed the biggest sound in the silent hall at the moment. But then, the cooing sound was drowned by the sound of swallowing one after another. Liu Huabai, the owner of the Liu family, and the 6-star Dozuan, who took the lead among the 3, both had convulsions in the corners of their eyes. Then, the 6-star Dozuan frowned slightly and looked at Liu Huabai standing in front of the main seat. His face showed an unhappy color and gave a cold hum. The 6-star Dozuan stared at Liu Huabai, sneered, and said, "Master Liu, your cat is really not afraid of strangers. It's very good." Liu Huabai's face changed slightly when he heard the speech. Liu Xincheng's face was not very good-looking. Xiao Yang asked them to take care of the white cat. What the cat does is none of their business. Besides, it's said to be taking care of the cat. In fact, it's just leaving the cat in their Liu family. As for Xiao Yang's intention, they don't know, but now they say he's the Liu family. How can people accept it? Liu painted the change of look on his white face. The 3 strong men from Qingyun Mansion should have seen it in their eyes. The 3 looked at each other and exchanged their eyes. The 6-star Dozuan, who was headed by him, nodded slightly, and then stopped moving. Liu Huabai just wanted to say something, but when he saw the 6-star fighter, he gave a sneer, waved his big sleeve and said in a cold voice, "Why? I'm afraid. Didn't I have a bottom in my heart a few days ago? I dare to kill the Dozuan strongman of Qingyun Mansion. Tut tut. I'm really brave. Where's the elder of your Liu family? Isn't he very strong? Let him out. I'll see how strong he can be." When he said this, he looked around as if he was afraid of something coming out suddenly. However, in the end, he laughed more and more wildly. The laughter made everyone frown slightly, looked at each other, and looked at the look of the 6-star Dozuan, which was full of fear. However, when all the people present felt palpitations because of the 6-star Dozuan, no one noticed except Liu Xincheng and Liu Huabai. The cat, who had been sleeping, woke up now, and her bright eyes opened slightly, revealing 2 thin black lines. The bright eyes are full of endless cold, which makes people feel like they are in the eternal cold ice. It is extremely cold. This video will end here.